tonight. And when it was on my heart tonight what to say to this incredible historical crowd. I think this is the largest crowd. We were discussing this prior to the dinner. I think this is the largest crowd in the history of the Columbia County Republican Committee. And I think that what that is showing us is that there is a sea change of understanding and comprehension of the critical components of philosophy that it takes to keep this American free enterprise system and this Republican democracy going the way that our founders intended for it to go. And I, for one, will always be a voice for that. And so I can tell tonight I have plenty of company. I have plenty of company, the seats that are filled tonight. And it is just a joy. It's a joy to be here and to see this. I attended my very first Columbia County Republican dinner when I was 11 years old. My mom and dad, who were conservative warriors back in the day when you just didn't do that, took me to this dinner, and there were a lot fewer people than there are today. But one of the highlights of that evening was that I got to actually meet, if you remember, in the days of the 2 years, the days filled at filling 2 years, with Governor Frank White. And he had actually come to Magnolia, and my parents wanted me to meet a real live Republican office holder so that I could know that they existed and that, you know what, you just persevere. You just do it. If you believe in your heart certain principles that you are willing to defend, to communicate, to live by, and to fight for, you just do it. And whether it's trendy or popular or not, you stand by those convictions if you truly believe that's the very best thing for your country. And at 11, that spoke volumes to me, that it's okay to be in the minority if you know that you're standing for the things that your heart feels strongly about. And so it's an exciting day today that philosophy is growing in momentum, that people are seeing the validity in it, and the strength and the power and the purity of limited government, lower taxes, personal freedom, personal responsibility, and that individual liberty that rings true in the soul and in the heart of every American being. And if it doesn't, it should. It should. That is what created the very essence of this country. And I, for one, want to continue to do all that I can to make sure that it is preserved for generations to come. You know, as I thought about what to say tonight, first of all, I have a heart of gratitude, because there is no way last year could have happened for me without the support from Columbia County. And I am so deeply, deeply thankful. I'll never forget that phone call to Skeet Braswell when I made my decision, and I thought, okay, I hadn't told anyone at this point. And I called her up, and I told her, I said, Skeet, it's Beth Ann. I've made an interesting decision here that I don't know exactly how this is going to hit you, but this week I will be announcing a run for the United States Congress. And Skeet did not blink an eye. She said, I'm there for you, and we will be there for you. And that was such a powerful statement to me, because when you make a decision like that, and some of you have done it in this very room, political or otherwise, you have made a decision from the soul of your very being. But when you do that and you take that step, you have no idea if anybody else is going to take that step with you. But you just do it. And Skeet joined me, and with the leadership of this incredible committee and the incredible talent of miracle worker Julia Smith, who I adore and love, we headed up a tremendous effort here in Columbia County, full of so many volunteers. Someone teased me once about what was your secret ingredient down there in Columbia County? And I was explaining all the volunteers and the committee and all of the amazing people that had gotten involved for no reason at all, except that they loved their country. And they were willing to donate an hour or $1 and get involved with an underdog, grassroots, true citizen-led campaign. And I'm just so grateful to that. And those are the people who were the secret ingredient to that. So Magnolia, Columbia County, thank you. And for the other counties that are represented here tonight, we carried Miller County, Union County, Garland County that are here tonight. We carried these counties. This is exciting. And so I appreciate the fact that we are seeing progress. The conservative belief system is seeing progress, and it's gaining momentum. And you know what? We're bringing people on board that for years have believed in their heart they probably are a Republican, and they are coming out and they're joining this movement because they see how much is at stake. And I know Congressman Griffin will be speaking about the debt and the deficit, our our budget dilemmas in Washington, D.C. a little later, and I hope you hit it hard, Tim. Yeah, give it to us the way that it really is up there, because we're in a serious situation. But this really is the year of the people. And if we don't succeed in all that we need to do in the year of the people, then we will make it the decade of the people. And if we don't succeed in the decade, we will make it the generation of the people until the federal government gets the message that they still work for us. That's the way that works. They work for us. It will be the consent of the governed. And you know what? The governed are starting to have a real say in what goes on in Washington, D.C. And it was out of that interest that I got involved in the United States congressional campaign last year. And, you know, let me say a word, too, for just a message to Republicans as we grow as a party. And as a lifelong Republican, you can imagine what a thrill this is for someone like me. I turned 40 years old this year, and it is a thrill to see that we have got this kind of momentum and spirit out there, a real exciting thing to witness. But with that comes growth in the party. I want you to know that as a participant in a Republican primary, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. That's why I went on in the general as prepared as I was in the general election. So as we grow as a party, let us welcome primaries. Let us welcome that opportunity to have many, many voices out there. Because at the end of the day, someone came up to me and said, "Why in the world are you taking on a 10-year incumbent?" And I was like, ooh. And they were just so intrigued by this. How can I do that? How can I challenge a 10-year incumbent? And I said, well, you know what? I'm kind of tired of going to the ballot and having only one name up there. Because you know what? When the voter goes to the ballot and they have more than one name to choose from, you know who wins? The citizen. That's who wins. When they go to the ballot box and they have more than one name to choose from, that is beautiful. That's America. And we should never be afraid of that in the general election, and we certainly should never fear that in our primaries on either side of the aisle. That, to me, is one of the most beautiful things of our American system. So, you know, the Republican philosophy, it teaches us that we do believe in limited government. Lower taxes, not higher taxes. You know, Washington, D.C. doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. And that is a big message that we're getting out there, because right now I'm convinced they could just confiscate every single income in the United States of America and it still wouldn't close the $14.2 trillion national debt that we have right now. Taxes and tax increases are not going to fix this. The habits that they've got up there for spending money that they have not earned, that is a turnaround of that philosophy is the only thing that is going to fix this. The other day I heard someone say, oh man, they're up there, they're just spending money like drunken sailors. Then someone else beside me piped up and they said, no, they're not. They said, sir, I was in the military and drunken sailors spend their own money. So true. That's not their money that they're spending. It'd be bad enough, ladies and gentlemen, if they were spending your money and my money. But they're spending money of children that have yet to be born in this great country. And they're spending it. It's not theirs to spend. And we will continue reiterating that message until they understand what that is all about. You know, one of the things that I say is that I hope that we will not continue with our Titanic philosophy. And of course, we're all familiar with the story of the Titanic, the great ship, the unsinkable ship. And I've been mesmerizing with that story for literally decades. I've absolutely loved it and done a lot of research. And here's what's fascinating to me about that. The fascinating thing is not that the unsinkable ship sank, but the fascinating and the heart-rending portion of this historical story is the fact the ship sank despite the multiple upon multiple radio warnings that were coming in and coming in and coming in. And they turned a deaf ear. Radio warning after radio warning that there were icebergs and treacherous conditions ahead, and the boat just continued to steam full throttle ahead. So despite the radio warnings that continuously came into the Titanic, that ship, lights on, bands playing, people dancing, and full steam ahead, crashed into the iceberg and ship sank. within ours. And the United States of America would do well, let me clarify that, the government of the United States of America would do well to learn the lessons of that Titanic philosophy, to learn that we must heed the warnings. But ladies and gentlemen, we are the warning. Please do not silence your voice. Continue to call, continue to be involved, send faxes, send letters, support your candidates, get out there and work your heart out, because too much is at stake to sit this one by and to just keep sailing on a ship that is headed for trouble. And we fear that in our heart, and we know that we can do something about it. And that was part of my motivation from last year. I ran on a balanced budget amendment. I still believe in the BBA. We've got it here in the state of Arkansas. They say it can't be done at the federal level. Yes, I know it's tough. Yes, I know that's the tough stuff. But yes, I believe that it can be done. We do it here in the state of Arkansas. So no, it's not going to happen overnight, but we can get on a path. We can get on a path to having a balanced budget for the United States of America, because we have to have it. It's no longer an option. We have to have the balanced budget amendment. And you know, as I think about all that has made this country great, I just know that I want to do my part. I want to be available, and I want to be a willing participant and an enthusiastic voice for all of the things that I love and I believe in so deeply for this incredible country. And as I'm looking out tonight, I see so many faces, and you're right there. You're right there with us. And we know that if we continue these efforts, we can keep this going. I wanted to leave my comments tonight with a few phrases of some of my favorite quotes from the two individuals for whom this dinner is named tonight. And of course, that would be Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. And I just want to say that as I chose these sections, I felt the words of history coming back to us even now. And as a student of history, I love going back and reading what they wrote, what they said, what they believed. And oh, if they could speak to us now. And yet they do. Listen to these words from the wonderfully powerful Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives so that this nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or to detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And ladies and gentlemen, our assignment rings true today. We have an unfinished task. They faced an unfinished task. We face an unfinished task. And as Columbia County well knows, as home to a guard unit located just right across this campus, and we'll be sending another one to Afghanistan next year. We well know, as John F. Kennedy said, the cost of freedom is high, and Americans have always paid it. We will pay it again next year as we send our own local heroes across the ocean. So as they fight for us, and as they are even now fighting for us on the other side of the ocean, may we do our part here. May we not allow our own government to make us weak from within, from economically. We've got to do our part. I want to end with my very favorite Reagan quote. And this one I love because probably I'm a musician. It speaks to me. that I think is powerful, and he used it, and which I found interesting. It's called the American sound. It says, history is a ribbon, always unfurling. History is a journey. And as we continue our journey, we think of those who traveled before us. Now we hear again the echoes of our past. A general falls to his knees in the hard snow of Valley Forge. A lonely president places the darkened halls and ponders his struggle to preserve the Union. The men of the Alamo call out encouragement to each other. A settler pushes west and sings a song, and the song echoes forever and fills the air. It is the American song, and it is the American sound. It is hopeful, it is big-hearted, it is idealistic, and yet it is daring. It is decent, and it is fair. That is our heritage. That is our song. We will sing it still. For all of our problems, for all of our differences, we are together as of old, as we raise our voices to the God who is the author of this most tender music. And may he continue to hold us close as we fill our nation and our world with our sound, a sound of unity, a sound of affection, a sound of love, one people under God, dedicated to this dream of freedom that he has placed in the human heart. Called upon now to pass that dream on to a waiting and hopeful world. You know, they say it will be the home of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. And I would say, ladies and gentlemen, there have been fewer times in our country that we have come across a crossroads where we need as many brave Americans to step forward as we do now. So, citizens of Columbia County, thank you. Keep up the incredible work that you have done to start a new era down here in South Arkansas, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your voice. Thank you, and God bless you.